Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Kyung Ho Kang to defeat Muin Gafurov. And I'm here to recap UFC on ABC 6. And it's got the other titles, but I'm going to spare you. Uh, I'm going to start here at the top with Robert Whittaker beating Ikram Aliskerov. This was an awesome makeshift main event. And I say that because despite how it turned out, going into the fight, I was very pleased with this main event. Very pleased. And so was the betting public. This was pretty much an even fight on paper on a few days' notice. So it was awesome, but in the end, not much of a fight. Robert Whittaker steamrolled Ikram Aliskerov and made himself look like whatever he is, the number 4 contender in the world or whatever. Yeah, that's what he looked like. Number 5, whatever. Steamrolled him in 1 minute. This was just that next level type of situation, which we see a lot. I didn't know we were going to see it here, but Ikram Aliskerov now, he's got a new profile. He's only got 2 losses to 2 of the very best fighters in the world, but they're both by knockout, by round 1 knockout. And one punch took him completely out of the fight against Hamzat, and one punch took him halfway out of the fight against Whittaker. And then Whittaker just kept going and uppercutted him out of the fight. This is a big step up. This was a big step up for Ikram Aliskerov, and you have to give him all the credit in the world for stepping up here, even though he had a lot to gain and whatever. But it was a big step up for a reason. Robert Whittaker has beaten every top contender in the division pretty much. Might actually be every one of them. And they all look the same pretty much. They were half dominant decisions. But here, this was a return to brutality for Robert Whittaker. I don't remember the last guy he knocked out. Who was it? Brunson? Might have been, right? I don't know. Either way, there's probably one I'm forgetting from like last year. But Robert Whittaker, he looked as deadly as he's looked in a long time here, and he next leveled Ikram Aliskerov. This is a win that I would think would get better with age, and I would definitely be saying that if both losses for Ikram weren't knockouts, because that's a thing that could get worse over time. And he's such a good fighter, and he's already done so much in the UFC where he's going to have some tough matchups to come. But yeah, for Whittaker, he's I'm assuming in great shape unless he broke his hand or something. Hopefully he gets back in there soon, but he's got a lot of momentum, and he's only been beaten by Israel Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis at middleweight. So he's in title contention, to say the least. Speaking of which, so is Alexander Volkov. Volkov had a sound victory over Sergey Pavlovich. This was one that I was sure was going to end with a knockout, but Volkov was just too much physically for Sergey Pavlovich to do his thing. Pavlovich did have 4 inches of reach as well, but it didn't look like it. And Volkov really just controlled him and kept him at bay, and also got his hair combed in between rounds, which, whatever. Interesting tactic. But Volkov did look good, so there's that. And he looked good, looking good. And he beat Sergey Pavlovich, the first guy to beat him by decision, but this was a clear victory. For Sergey, I'm glad he lost and his chin didn't give. That's good that he was able to take it from Volkov, but this wasn't the most grueling fight. I don't know if he was a little too doubtful in his own health, his own chin for this one, or if it was just that he was thrown off by the unique physicality of Alexander Volkov. But either way, he was a step and a half behind, and he lost a grudge match as well, because these guys used to be friends, but apparently they broke up after the fight. So I'm sure it stings, it sucks, but, whatever. At least he didn't get knocked out. But yeah, different profile for Sergey Pavlovich. I still consider him the killer. You'll hear me say that the next time I talk about him. This guy, if he's going to win, he's going to kill you. But now, maybe he's got a few different ways to lose. So, rough loss for him. But yeah, for Volkov, he's still one of the best heavyweights in the world, and he's still in title contention. Anybody he's lost to is a challenger, a champion, just killers. So He's one of the best. Kelvin Gastelum missed weight and beat D-Rod by decision. I did think Gastelum won the fight, but I thought it was very close. But he definitely didn't deserve the win. And you know what? He should give Tyron Woodley his money back. Because when he and Woodley fought many years ago, he missed weight, I think, for like the second time. And Woodley said, you know what, keep the money that they were going to give me because you deserve it, kid. You know, you'll fix this problem. And here we are 20 years later, or whatever, and he's still missing weight. And he's missing it by like a weight class and a half. So, dog shit discipline from Kelvin Gastelum. I'm hoping he sticks around in the UFC, but I hope they, have a gun to his head and say you're fighting at 185 or fuck it, you're fighting at 205. I don't know, maybe not that, but yeah, he deserves a punishment here. He shouldn't be able to dictate any terms because he's unreliable. And if the UFC books him at 170, they have to know at the very least they're dealing with incredible anxiety about the fight. And at the very most, they're dealing with major headaches, last minute changes, forking over money. They actually did cut a deal with D-Rod where they gave him a 6-fight contract and I think some money and whatever. So good for him. And he fought hard enough here where he could have won the fight. I don't even know what the scorecards were. It was a unanimous decision, but very close fight. But you know what? Maybe that extra bit of slack that Kelvin was afforded in the weight cut kept himself healthy enough to stand up to D-Rod down the stretch. So half an asterisk next to the win, but I considered it a win for Gastelum. I thought he did get the better of D-Rod in that fight, despite all the circumstances. Shara Bullet knocked out Antonio Tricoli in round 3. I thought he looked really good in the second half of that fight. Early, Tricoli was giving him a lot of trouble, but Tricoli was just limited. Tricoli wasn't, he was able to slow him down a little bit, and he had so much height and reach and size on him, but he was just an inferior athlete, and that wasn't something he could sustain for 15 minutes. And he made shit work for him early and then fell apart down the stretch and really fell apart in round 3. He did have a full camp like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And here he, stepped in a week later. I'm assuming he was close to optimal shape, but if he wasn't, it might help explain him falling apart in round 3. But Shara Bullet, even though he's not a perfect fighter, he's still very deadly, and he's gotten it done down the stretch before, and here he needed to, and he got it done. Well, maybe he would have won a decision, of course, but he still looked good getting a finish and got a nice highlight. He's definitely a good, dangerous fighter, but not perfect, and I want to see him face a serious test. I know Bo Nickel called him out. I don't know. That'd be interesting. Bo is a guy with so much promise, but I'm not exactly sure of him yet either. And for Antonio Tricoli, he's still dating Mackenzie Dern, so you son of a bitch. But I think, you know what, he stepped up here. He dealt with a lot of headaches himself. He's definitely getting another shot in the UFC. Hopefully he can make shit work for him, and I'm sure he'll have a less dangerous opponent next. Speaking of danger, Volkan Oezdemir knocked out Johnny Walker. Volkan was just a little too much for Johnny, power and danger-wise, and he got inside on him, and pretty quickly, halfway through round 1, knocked him out. Johnny Walker, whatever, he's got 5 knockouts, I think, or 5 knockout losses, I think, and one of them, he was knocked out like 3 times against the guy Henrique. He's definitely got a weak chin. It's something that you can count on and bet on in the future. But speaking of future, I don't know what he's got going on, but he's really got to think about things, especially fighting in the UFC. Volkan Oezdemir is so fucking dangerous, and that's somebody Walker was favored to beat. And it's just another major loss for his chin. And I think, might be time to start thinking about things. I know Andrei Arlovsky's fighting next week, and he's got a dozen knockout losses. But Johnny Walker, he was knocked out here. He was knocked out of the fight, but then that last uppercut or punch on the ground or whatever knocked him dead. So it sucks for him, but yeah, He's still as exciting as anybody. One of those true glass cannons. And for Volkan, this was a return to no time. No time. That's his thing. It was his thing. He's shown he can fight long, but he's also shown he can get it done in 2 minutes, and that's what he did here. Looked excellent, did what he needed to do, and he's back on track. Volkan is not done here. Definitely not done. Nasrat Haqparast beat Jared Gordon by split decision. I thought this one was really close. I thought Jared Gordon should have won, to be honest. I thought he took over largely in the second half. But I also think Nasrat Haqparast fought hard in round 3. When I thought the fight was totally getting away from him, he turned things around in the second half and gave himself a shot at winning a decision. This was an awesome fight, fucking grueling and exhausting. And Jared Gordon, I have to say, his chin held up. He was losing good portions of this fight, and his chin, I still consider it a major liability. You'll hear me mention this shit next time. But he looked healthy here, and his tenacity was there for him, and I thought it should have been the story of this fight. And it would have been if one of the judges gave it to him. But instead, he only got one judge, looked good, but doesn't get the win, the winning purse and all the rest that goes along with it. So, tough loss for Jared Gordon. This was a real coin flip. But for Nasrat, he did his job on paper. But this one was really close, and he should be lucky to have a win here. Felipe Lima beat Muhammadjan Naimov. This one cost me. I actually didn't bet a lot on Muhammadjan Naimov. I expected him to be the favorite, and then they were even money pretty much. So I did bet on him. But then after round 1, when Naimov slowed down Lima, and I thought definitely won round 1 with his control, they were still even odds. So then I bet a lot on him, and then he fell apart in the end. And he didn't even really fall apart. I think Felipe Lima just took that fight from him. He created an opportunity, took his back standing, and pounced on him. And for a guy that's got a lot of decisions, that does speak to his cardio, I guess, but he got it done with a killer instinct in round 3. My estimation of him has skyrocketed. I thought this was an incredible win, and I don't know what kind of shape he was in. He could have been in the middle of a full camp, which I don't think he was, and this still would have been so impressive. But if he wasn't, it's even more impressive. Just incredible. I love a debut like that, and he didn't do it over a guy that is making his debut. He did it over a guy in Naimov who's already somewhat established. Take away his last win because of whatever, but he still got 2 solid wins in the UFC, and Felipe Lima stepped over him here in a big way. Fucking awesome. And for Naimov, he didn't look completely unhealthy, but my one doubt in him was his cardio in general. And again, he didn't completely gas out here, but he did fall apart in round 3, or he did let the fight get taken from him in round 3. So it's a new wrinkle that he can be finished. But that was a fight he was winning. And then round 3, no more. Rinat Fakhretdinov beat Nicholas Dalby by split decision. This one was pretty fucking close. Really close. I thought Dalby could have won. I knew it was going to be a split decision. I was sure it was going to be anyway. And Rinat, his pressure and his wrestling in the end was enough to get him the win. And in the end, it was a lot. He did have a lot of control, and he was in Dalby's face. And he does have effective striking. I can't call it like clean or anything. He's a little sloppy, but he hits hard, and he can brawl. But Dalby was able to take everything he was given, and Dalby was able to keep himself standing largely, and in round 3 really take it to Fakhretdinov. And I thought in the end it really could have gone either way. Excellent performance from Dalby. The way he looked against Gabriel Bonfim, I really wish this one went his way. Would have been fucking awesome. But instead, Fakhretdinov, with all of his skills, which are starting to look a little less impressive with each fight now, he had enough to get it done. So he keeps his winning streak going at 20 whatever and 5 or something in the UFC. He's got a lot going on, but he's at the scratch and claw lately. But one thing you'll hear me mention the next time, he does scratch and claw. And even in his last fight against Aliskerov, he got the shit kicked out of him, almost finished in a few different ways in the final 2 minutes of the fight when he was exhausted, and he survived. So there is that. Muin Gafurov beat Kyung Ho Kang. This was a good fight. I thought Gafurov definitely won. I thought it was 30-27, but I still thought a lot of the rounds were close. Kyung Ho Kang had a lot of good control. Every time he got on top of Gafurov, he would mount him, and he held the mount for a good period of time at one point. Just wasn't able to mount any real offense, any real strikes out of it, and was eventually bucked from the mount every time. And Gafurov was, in general, the bully there. I thought the best weapon was the leg kick. He really took out Kang with that leg kick. That was dictating the fight from like the first 30 seconds. And he also, despite getting mounted, he generally won the wrestling battle too, I believe. I don't know. I don't know what the stats were. But good performance from Gafurov. I thought it was a clean 30-27 victory, but very hard fought. And for Kyung Ho Kang, his durability looked there for him, and everything else, but he was not able to make the most of his opportunities there. From the mount, all he did was control, and in the end, getting swept and whatever, it didn't amount to a win for any round. So he let that one slip away, maybe. Magomed Gajiasulov beat Brenton Ribeiro by majority decision. I thought Brenton Ribeiro made this a really good fight. I thought Gachiyasulov, I already forget how they said it, but he took over the fight in general. But I'm most impressed that Brenton Ribeiro lost, and it wasn't by knockout or submission. And he's actually got 2 decision losses, I believe, and they're both by majority decision. But he wasn't able to make enough work for him here, and I did think he slowed down and just wasn't able to keep up. But again, I'm very impressed that he made it to the final bell. And for Gachiyasulov, he's got a few decisions now in a row, I believe. This is his 3rd decision or whatever, even though he could have finished the guy in the Contender Series, Medina, multiple times. But he looked less deadly here, but got a victory. So not the most impressive debut for him. I think it does hurt his reputation, but the primary trait of his reputation is that he's undefeated, and he keeps that going. And Chang Ho Lee beat Long Zhao, or Zhao Long. I think they were saying Zhao Long. This was a really close fight. I thought could have gone either way, but in general, the story of the fight was Long Zhao let it slip away. I thought he was winning early and then fell off a little bit in the end, even though he still had a lot of control on Chang Ho Lee. Both these guys, every fight I've seen them in pretty much has been grueling. Maybe one of them got a quick finish, I believe. But a lot of grueling fights, and this was what I expected. But, man, this was really close. Could have gone either way. Happened to go Chang Ho Lee's way. And he showed the traits that he's shown in his other fights as well, where he scratched and clawed, got that 1/3 round comeback. And here, he did enough scratching and clawing, and he got the nod. So, congrats to him on his UFC debut. Overall, I thought this was a good event, capped off by the knockout from Whittaker, which was awesome because everybody's pretty much a fan of Robert Whittaker. He's the nicest guy in the sport. He makes Damian Maia look like a scumbag, even though Damian's not in the sport. But yeah, he's just the nicest guy, and it's nice when the nice guy gets a violent finish like that. So capped off by this, it wasn't a bad event at all, and that about wraps it up. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.